Hello and welcome to another episode of Earth911's Sustainability in Your Ear, the podcast conversation with a change maker working to accelerate the transition to a sustainable carbon neutral society. I'm your host, Mitch Ratcliffe. When I was a kid, we turned our red radio flyer wagon into a luge. Me, my brother, and the neighborhood kids would lie back in the wagon and go careening down the streets, around corners, and speed through long straight sections until there was no more down left to ride. And that was just one of the many paces we put that radio flyer wagon through over more than 10 years. Radio Flyer popped up on my radar last month when it became the first global toy and e-bike brand to become a certified B Corporation, the emerging corporate form that recognizes that business can have an environmental and social mission in addition to the goal of turning a profit. Achieving B Corp status is a rigorous undertaking that requires adoption of responsible labor, social, and environmental practices, and provides successful companies with tax and other advantages, along with a sterling reputation that can attract, in particular, younger workers. Our guest today is Robert-Pasin, Chief Executive Officer of Radio Flyer. He also refers to himself as the Chief Wagon Officer. And Radio Flyer now makes, in addition to that wagon of my youth, tricycles, scooters, inflatables, adult e-bikes, and a suite of Tesla electric toy vehicles. Robert's grandfather, Antonio Pasin, founded Radio Flyer in 1917, and Robert spent several years teaching sixth grade in Chicago before joining the company. We're pleased to have him here to talk about why Radio Flyer went B, and how the process has reshaped what his team works on and the criteria they apply to decision-making. You can learn more about Radio Flyer and its sustainability commitments at www.radioflyer.com. Welcome to the show, Robert. How are you doing today?
Great. It's great to be with you, Mitch.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you. I mean, as I said during the introduction, the wagon was a really big part of my childhood, and it's a pleasure to see you guys both here 50 years later and doing the things you're doing. And what I want to start off with is, a well-established company, Radio Flyer, adopted the B Corp model. Why? Why does it make sense? What was the motivation?
Yeah, well, as I learned several years ago, as I learned a little bit more about B Corp and what it meant, we started looking into it. And as we looked at the requirements, we realized that, we'd already developed a lot of the processes and practices that are required for a B Corp. So how we treat our customers, the type of workplace and culture we have, how we give back to the community, our sustainability efforts. So as we looked into it, we realized that we could become certified, based on what we were already doing.
And why was sustainability so important? I know that you set up some of your first sustainability internal employee networks in the 2009 range. What was the impetus for a general commitment to sustainability back then?
Yeah, I mean, just as I became more aware of, climate change and how important sustainability was, 20 years ago, I realized that, we could do better, and it was just the right thing to do. And so we hired a consulting firm called Pure Strategies originally to help us really create our sustainability roadmap. And that's when it got started and we started really making efforts to put in processes in place to become more sustainable.
So what were the benefits of going through the actual B Corp process? Obviously, you've done a lot of groundwork laying, but what didn't you expect that you ended up having to change in order to qualify?
Yeah. Well, we actually really didn't change anything to qualify, but what we got, I think, was our baseline, rating, which is everyone gets a score between 80 and 200 for B Corp. And so there are definitely opportunities and for us to increase our score over time, and you get recertified every 3 years. So we just had a call yesterday with our internal team, with the B Corp team, looking at how can we use their tools and assessments to get better at things that we weren't maybe even aware of. Like, some of these things are about there's this whole customer component of measuring your impact on your customers. And so what are the health benefits of our products? Well, we know there's health benefits of our products, but we've never measured those. So we weren't able to get points for that. So now we're looking at, how can we actually measure those? And it's actually really interesting and causes us to think about that in a different way.
So, can you give me an example of the kinds of impact that you're having that you hadn't really anticipated even beginning to count?
Um, I'm not sure I know what you mean.
I mean, you've changed operations and what you're measuring.
Yeah.
What are you measuring that you didn't expect to be measuring?
Well, there's a lot around governance too. That's kind of a sleepy, boring topic, but super important for how businesses are governed. And since we're a
Yeah.
family-owned business, our governance is very simple. We're not a big public companies, but we realized like we hadn't made the legal commitment to become a B Corp. So that's something new that we're doing. We changed our articles of incorporation to make it legally codified that we're a B Corp. I didn't even know that was something that you could do before getting into this process of getting certified for a B Corp.
Well, and what in terms of governance and reporting, how much more transparent do you feel that Radio Flyer has become as a result of the process?
Yeah, it's definitely educated us on transparency. Like we realized we need to update how we report on our sustainability impacts, on our website. We do have some information on our website, but it's not as current as it should be. It's not as robust as it should be. So that's one of the things that our team is working on now, is improving that.
I want to talk a little more about particularly sustainability reporting later, but you already mentioned this, of course, is a family company. Your grandfather founded the company. Your father became the CEO in the 1970s. The process of becoming a B Corp was pretty obviously a family decision, but did that make it a lot easier than other companies? Have you talked with other CEOs, for instance, who said, wow, this was really a slog because we didn't have the alignment that amongst our shareholders?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I mean, it makes it easier when you're privately held, when you're closely held like we are. And, I have the ability to, make these calls without having to answer to a public market and just to do it because it's the right thing to do. And my grandpa was an Italian immigrant carpenter, and his values were make a quality product that lasts a really long time, that's beautifully designed, and treat others as you wish to be treated. That was his business model. So we've always been about building something to last, and I think those are the values he raised my dad with, and those are the values that my dad raised me with.
So in a way, really, sustainability is built in. The longer the product lasts, the lower its overall carbon footprint, just for example. But how have you started to rethink waste reduction in the production process, or the use of recycled materials, or other criteria that you're applying to internal decision making when you're bringing a new product to market? Yeah.
Well, as part of our sustainability journey that we started, 15 plus years ago, one of the first things was to measure everything in the chemicals in our products, the processes that we're using to produce our products. So just really understanding, what is the impact that we're having on the environment, and then how can we improve it? So then we've taken a lot of efforts to reduce the negative impacts we have on the environment. So like, for example, we've replaced poly bags in our packaging with paper-based packaging, which saves about 43,000 pounds of single-use packaging every year. We've diversified our supply chain to include more recycled content. So 87% of our packaging now is comprised of recycled content, because that's the stuff that, gets tossed when somebody has a product. The product, as you mentioned, is inherently very sustainable because it lasts for years and years and years and is passed down or resold or repurposed. Our products can be repaired and continue to be used. If a tire wears out, we send people a new tire.
Right.
So those are some things that we have done as a result of B Corp and our sustainability journey.
Well, and talking about packaging, for instance, there's two moments in the life of a product when you've got some waste as a consumer, and one of them is the packaging. A lot of companies are stop at this is recyclable. Are you doing anything to help people take those steps to better recycle both the packaging and the product at end of life?
Yeah, I think we have to do better on that. I think, consumers, are much more educated on how to recycle the packaging once they're done and they've unpacked the product and put it together. In terms of end of life of our products, I think that, our products can be disassembled and they can be sorted for recycling. And
Right.
so those are real positives versus a thing that you can't even take apart and separate into what can be recycled and what cannot be recycled.
How have customers and retailers responded to the B Corp change, or have you even begun to communicate that? But how does it change your brand reputation in your opinion?
Yeah, I think it's early to say, but I view this as a long-term trend. Consumers increasingly want to know if companies are being good citizens of the world, if they're treating people well, if they're trying to preserve and protect the environment. So we're gonna put it, on our website. We're gonna have it in our instruction sheets when people are putting the products together. And I view it as kind of like, it's a little bit of like the cherry on top of why another reason to consumers love Radio Flyer. Like, they love our products, they grew up with it, they have all these fond memories. And now we have this kind of seal of approval that shows we've been assessed by an independent organization that's saying, we are trying and working hard to be a good citizen of the world.
So, I as a parent and soon to be a grandparent, am looking for those kinds of responsible companies. But, we had a recent conversation with Mattel, and they talked about how they design sustainability and ethos of sustainability even to the product to get the kids thinking about it as well. How do you communicate that to children? Have you even begun the communication engagement with the youth audience?
Yeah, I would say we haven't really done that as much. I mean, part of it is because we really view our customer more as the parent and grandparent, because our products are bought for kids when they're really young, and the kids aren't really involved in the purchase decision. But I think it's a good idea for us to think about that. We get a lot of stories from consumers where they're using a wagon, to pick up products and to recycle, or bring bottles in and things like that. But it's more organic. It's not something that we're really teaching, I wouldn't say.
It would be great to have a photo essay of kids bringing bottles in wagons.
I love that.
So does sustainability play a role in your marketing at this point?
Yeah, it does. I mean, we have it on our website, and yes, I think it's something that we have to get better at communicating. But one of the products I think that we do the best with on that is a product called the Beach and Boardwalk wagon, and it's really our most sustainable product. So it's a wagon that's designed specifically to be used at the beach. Because it's got thicker tires and it's great for sand. And the wagon body is made of 100% recycled PET. That's from plastic water bottles and bottle caps and things that are found in ocean plastic. So it's kind of a cool, all
brings it back.
Yeah.
And again, then really it's the parent who goes, hey, your wagon is made from a bottle that just washed up on the shore here. Let's pick up the bottle. Interesting.
Yeah. Exactly. And each wagon, so we communicate that to the consumer. Each wagon removes about 90 plastic water bottles from landfills and oceans. And then about 15% of the plastic used in the wagon frame and wheels are from recycled content. So overall, about 30% of the materials in this product are from recycled material.
This is a fascinating conversation. I want to take a quick commercial break. We're going to be right back to continue the conversation. We're back to continue talking with Robert-Pasin. He's the Chief Wagon Officer at Radio Flyer, the toy and now ebike company founded by his grandfather 105 years ago. So, Robert, Radio Flyer has begun to set its sustainability goals and communicate them. What are your emissions goals in particular, and what other environmental impacts are you beginning to measure and try to reduce?
Yeah. So we've committed to the science-based emission reduction goals that are aligned with the Science-Based Targets Initiative, so SBTI, and that's to keep global emissions below the 2 degrees Celsius of pre-industrial levels. So that's a very specific scientific measurement, and so we've been making some progress. We've had success reducing our scope 1 and 2 emissions. So that's electricity and natural gas at our headquarters in Chicago. And I feel really confident that we're going to meet and surpass our goals at this location. And then our scope 3, which is largely our products that we make, we've had a few wins, like the recycled materials I just described to you, and the packaging and the products, and increasing the renewable energy use at our factories. So many of our vendors who make our products now are using solar power. So that's really good. So that's one of our big goals and commitments we've made. Another one is RE100. So we're a member of RE100, which is the Global Corporate Renewable Energy Initiative that hundreds of businesses use that are committing to 100% renewable electricity. And our target there was to achieve 100% renewable electricity across our global operations by 2020, which we did achieve.
Okay.
And a couple of the key ways we got there was we installed an array of solar panels on our roof here in our Chicago headquarters where I'm sitting right now. Mm-hmm. And then also by supporting renewable wind projects in the U.S. by the purchase of certified offsets, green offsets.
Okay, so you're using local energy but offsetting by using RECs.
Yes.
Okay. Now you mentioned Scope 3. It's a common theme in these conversations is that Scope 3 is very hard even to see into. Are your suppliers and partners starting to publish enough information about their Scope 1 and 2 emissions that you can extrapolate your Scope 3 emissions from that?
Yeah, we are. I mean, we're estimating it, and the way we estimate it is through life cycle audits, at where our factories will collect energy data. They monitor it, and then they have an internal system that estimates the impact across our product line. We have an internal system that does that. Okay. So we get this because we have long-term relationships with our suppliers, and we work really closely with our suppliers to figure this out. So, and this is one of the things that has led our suppliers to go to more solar power in their factories over the past 5 years. So it is accomplishing changes, but it is slow going.
Now, you also mentioned that you're sitting in a building in Chicago, and that was built to the LEED standard, and in fact, LEED Platinum certification, which is something that only 6% of the buildings accomplish. You renovated an older building. Tell us about the project and how you integrated various things like geothermal heating and native landscaping and so forth.
Yeah. Well, we're in a 100-year-old building. So we've been in this building since the 1930s. And when we decided to renovate it, we started looking at everything that we could possibly do to achieve LEED. Mm-hmm. And then we realized, well, we could get to platinum. And the way we did it was the number one thing that we got a lot of points for was reusing an existing building, not tearing it down and throwing it in a landfill. And then we installed a geothermal heating and cooling system, which you get a ton of points for that because it's this really efficient way to heat and cool the building. It's almost a 40% reduction, in the energy consumption from heating and cooling.
Right.
We put in rain cisterns to collect rainwater from our roof that harvest about 10,000 gallons of rainwater that we then use for all of our irrigation of, the green space that we have around the building. We did things like we didn't remove any dirt, from the building and or the soil. So we created berms. We created a bioswale for nice. Any rainwater retention. We installed a permeable parking lot, So, and then in the building when we redid all the fixturing, we used low water usage, toilets and sinks, and we used lighting that is really, really efficient and automatically dims based on natural light, and we have tons of natural light too. So the thing that was really cool about it is because we did this in 2012, this renovation project, was that everybody got involved in the company with it. And it was a huge education process for everyone learning about these standards. And a lot of people since then have said, I did this in my house. We did this renovation project and we, chose this part of it because we knew about that. So I think that's one of the cool kind of ripple effects of doing something like that is it's a real education for the team.
That's so important, this internal ethic of thinking about sustainability. So the investment, obviously was fairly large up front, but it sounds like you've also realized a lot of savings over the ensuing years. Has it actually paid off and starting to generate more returns as a result of the savings that you've built in?
That's a really good question. I have to say we have not measured that. I mean, the building was paid for long ago, and
Why think about it?
Yeah, so I think there was a lot of deferred maintenance for many years, so it was very much in need of new roofs and new HVAC and everything. So I'm not sure if it's paid for itself, but I think one way it definitely has paid for itself is we not only did we create a LEED Platinum space, but we created this really awesome, unique workspace that is beautiful and has attracted talent. And we were named by, Crain's Chicago Business as one of the coolest offices, which prior to the renovation, we would not have been one of the coolest offices. So those are some of the intangibles that I think, have really helped us build this great culture and winning team.
And are you finding that also brings in the young workers that you want to attract? How do they respond when they walk into an environment and you can say, well, it's LEED Platinum and look what we're doing with the bioswale and the rainwater collection? Does that play a part in the recruitment process?
Absolutely. I mean, it's attracting the kind of talent we want, which are, designers and engineers and brand marketing people that value those things, because that's the kind of company and team we want to build.
Now, another thing that you're doing is planting a tree for each product purchased. And is this something that you're counting as part of your carbon budget and offsetting, or is it something that you're doing simply as a restorative effort?
Yeah, we're not counting it as an offset. We're really just viewing it as a restorative effort. And because, I mean, the other thing we're so closely aligned with is outdoors. We're all about outdoor active play. When consumers talk about Radial Flyer, they talk about the sun in their face, the wind in their hair, playing outside. And so it's just planting trees, we think, is just one of the ways we want to give back and help to restore the environment.
I think that's the right way to go. Too many people are starting to think, well, I can justify CO2 emissions by giving somebody a tree. But the fact that you're just doing it to do a good turn for the environment is part of that ethos that we need to build up.
Yeah.
Now, you've also entered another outdoor market, and that's e-bikes. And you did this last year. Obviously, it's a focus of significant investment, but tell us why e-bikes and why now?
Yeah. Well, we've always looked at bikes because, we're all about wheels. And actually, a lot of consumers kind of sometimes say, well, does Radial Flyer make bikes? I mean, so it makes sense for the brand. We just never knew how we could, kind of stake a claim or create a niche for our products. So when we saw the advent of electric bikes, and years ago, I was in Amsterdam and I saw these families, on their cargo bikes and stuff and using them like a car. And I thought that was so cool. But if you've ever ridden a cargo bike with two kids on the back that's not electric, it's really a hard workout, So all those things kind of came together, and we thought, well, we could. Our brand makes sense. We're all about transporting families. We're all about. So could we make an electric bike that really could potentially replace car trips with bike rides? And so that's what we've really focused on. Is our line of bikes have all these really cool, well-designed accessories that enable you to have your kids ride on the back or put cargo on the back. And we're getting all these great stories and feedback from consumers that they're saying, we used to dread the morning school drop-off because it's only a mile from our house, but it takes forever because of the lines. And now we just zip up on our electric bike and the kids think it's a fun bike ride and they hop off, and it's made our mornings, from stressful to peaceful. And so that's kind of some of the stuff we're trying to do.
Now, the other thing that I noticed is you're taking on the fleet market a bit with regard to delivery companies. And you've got the Flyer folding cargo bike, which I understand is being pitched to delivery companies. That's a new market.
Yeah.
So essentially you opened a new door by bringing this online.
Yeah, definitely. That's what we're trying to do.
Does that change how you market? I mean, do you have to build up an internal team to address the delivery industry?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't done a whole team, but we have one person working on it.
Okay. Now, do you imagine wagons that go with the cargo bike that enable that fleet business, and therefore red wagons spreading again to every corner of the country?
I would be revealing our product pipeline, Mitch. I can't do that. But
Okay.
yes, you're thinking the way we're thinking.
Well, okay. So the other one I wanted to ask about is the Tesla relationship. You make these Tesla electric cars, and they look like a real kick in the ass. Did they come to you and say, "Hey, Radio Flyer, do Tesla," or did you go to them and say, "We'd love to do a Tesla"?
Yeah, we approached Tesla back in 2013, and it was because our team was researching, battery cars is the category name for it. So those electric cars that kids ride, and we found that people really liked the products, but one of the biggest complaints from the parents was that the battery was always dead, and it took a really long time to charge the battery because they were traditional lead acid batteries. Mm-hmm. So our design team said, we could solve that problem with lithium ion batteries. And then our head of design said, if we're going to do lithium ion, we should try to partner with Tesla. And well, back in 2013, Tesla was not what it is today. And they were really still just kind of getting started. And so we did reach out to Tesla, and we pitched them on the idea that we would do basically a miniaturized version of a Tesla in every way, not just the product, but the whole buying experience. Just like you buy a Tesla online, you'd buy this product online, you could customize it. And they love the idea, and it's been a fantastic partnership.
Well, congratulations on shipping the Cybertruck before they did.
Yeah.
So now that you've achieved B Corp status, what's next? How can our listeners follow along, and what's the next exciting area you want to attack?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, our goal is to be around for another 105 years. I mean, we're in it for the long haul. We want to keep making products that delight families, that people love, that bring joy to kids. So we're going to keep on doing that, and we're going to keep on working hard to improve our processes and what we do to have a positive impact on the world. And you can follow me on LinkedIn, and you can find Radio Flyer at radioflyer.com.
Well, Robert, thank you very much for taking time to talk with us today.
It's been a pleasure, Mitch. Thank you.
We've been talking with Robert-Pasin, Chief Wagon Officer at Radio Flyer. You can learn more about the company, the evolution of its wagons and e-bikes at www.radioflyer.com. B Corp status is sometimes criticized as a form of greenwashing, and it can certainly be. But the companies that make a genuine effort to change have reported significant improvements. And as Robert explained, the B Corp process can unfold into new relationships with customers and partners, create an engaging workplace and setting that attracts the best talent, as well as lead to genuine environmental improvements. Radio Flyer's early embrace of B Corp status, it is the first global toy company to go there, is still a work in progress, as we heard, and it'll be intriguing to watch as they refine their processes and accelerate progress towards net zero operations. If you're thinking about making the B Corp investment for yourself, consider a conversation with a consultant to learn what is involved. But you can also take a lesson from Radio Flyer and recognize that you can make immense progress simply by getting employees involved in regular conversations about sustainability, customer relationships, and expanding what you report publicly to create greater accountability. After all, what you measure and report can reshape your culture and operations. And if you're looking for a wagon or an e-bike, look for the B Corp symbol to understand whether the company that you're going to buy from is working to reduce its environmental footprint and treats its employees right. Those are the simple things that you can assume based on the fact that they've achieved the designation are a fact. The sustainability efforts overall are always going to be a work in progress. I hope you have put up with my raspy voice today. The air quality here in the Seattle area is the worst in the world. And frankly, living here right now is like smoking 3 packs of cigarettes a day. But maybe we can change that in the future. I hope you're going to take a few minutes to share this show with your friends, family, neighbors, and coworkers. Your amplification of our signal can spread more ideas so that we create less waste as a society. Let folks know they can find sustainability in your ear on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, and other fine purveyors of podcast goodness. We appreciate your support. I appreciate your support. I'm Mitch Ratcliffe. We'll be back with another interview soon. In the meantime, folks, take care of yourself, take care of one another, and let's all take care of this beautiful planet of ours. Have a green day.